What is up, everybody? My name is Daniel Payne, and you might know me as probably nobody, but you might actually know me as the guy who was on Spidey's, I think it was the last stream, um, and he invited me on the stream, which was awesome, and I did the force control combo, which people seem to really like, which is awesome. But at the end of that demonstration of showing off the combo, I did a move that everybody seemed to also really want to know how to do, and it looked like this, where you take a card, like the Queen of Clubs, okay, and you take it and you put it over here into your other hand, and it turns into a completely different card, the Eight of Spades. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that today. So get a deck of cards, just a normal deck. If you're fairly new to Magic and everything and handling cards, I recommend getting kind of a used or worn deck. They're a lot easier to handle double lifts, which is what this uses. So basically, get a double lift. You can do whatever you want. I like to, just for practicing purposes, just riffle into the middle of the deck, riffle off two, get your middle finger in there, rotate it out, and there you go. You got a double. You can hold it right there. And so basically what you're doing is, and I'll get into the little subtleties here in a minute. So basically what you're doing is you're taking the card, and as you're moving it down, as soon as the face of that front card moves out of their line of sight, right about there, is whenever you slide that back into Tenkai Palm while you're at the same time using your left hand to rotate that top one out. Okay. Now, I wouldn't recommend this for super new people who are not used to handling cards, because this does require a double lift. It requires a Tenkai Palm. It requires you to ditch a card, because obviously I can just go off camera with that, and but in person, you're going to have to learn how to deal with spectators, and I'll show you a lot of different tips for that here in a second. But so that's the basic gist of it. What you're doing is you got two of them, and as soon as that face is out of sight, you're sliding that in. So you're just doing this motion, just kind of like that money, rubbing those fingers together motion. I'm so awkward in front of camera. So you're just sliding that into Tenkai Palm, and as soon as you reach over with your other hand, you're going to just pick that out, which of course it's still facing away from the audience at this point. And what I like to do, I like to point. That way it subtly just shows the audience that, hey, look, this hand is totally innocent, without actually having to say that, because that kind of negates the whole statement. So you point over here, or I like to anyway, and as I come down, I ditch the card, and then so what you're doing is you're taking it away from the the dirty hand. You're taking it farther away from that, and drawing the audience's attention up here. And so let's get into placement right quick. I don't have super huge, gigantic hands. I have pretty slender fingers, I think, for a guy. So I think that, so for people with smaller hands, that this should be an okay, easy thing to do if you get your angles down correctly. So what I like to do is I take these two fingers right here, the index and the middle finger, and that very first bend, okay, that very first joint is where I like to put the card. So you have the double lift, and as you're coming down, and you have to practice in front of a mirror or in front of a camera, as it comes down, as soon as it's out of view and they can only see the back of it, that's whenever you do. And if you don't bring your other hand up, it could look kind of weird, like you're, So you bring the other hand up to help sell it. Okay, so now we're going to go over a couple of tips to help you sell this in front of a live audience. So let's get the double here. So as you're displaying the card, okay, everybody's going to be looking up here, of course. So what you need to get used to doing, it's kind of like muscle memory, is if you're right-handed anyway. If you're left-handed, I guess just do the opposite. If you're right-handed, you're going to get used to setting the deck down on if there's a table or a countertop anywhere in the vicinity. You're going to get used to setting it down diagonally on the counter. When I say diagonally, I mean the left side needs to be forward and the right side needs to be back. So top left, bottom right, diagonally. And I like to actually leave it a little bit messy on top, where it's clearly just kind of messed up and it's not squared up, which nobody will notice or anything. It doesn't mean anything to them, but it's all very much on purpose, and you'll see why here in a second. So whenever you're up here and you're displaying the card, and you come and you do the move, and so you have a different card over here. You got the palm. Okay, so I'll put this diagonally. That way, it's very naturally. I can either set it on top. I can just set it on top and move my hand away. I can drop it on top. I can set it on top and move the deck away. And so, as justification, just so I can display the new card, because everybody's going to be looking up here anyway. So, and the reason I say diagonally that way, so if I set the deck down flat like that, and I do the move, and I set it down on top, like that's a very obvious difference from that to that. And if you're doing it in front of a pretty big audience, somebody could very well notice that. And I know that's not a huge difference, but trust me, getting used to doing little subtle things like that is what's really going to set you apart from everybody else. So that's one huge tip that I think is very important in this. And another, it's kind of a variation in a way, or if you're really feeling yourself that night. And I've done this several times, and I promise I've gotten away with it every single time. And what I like to do sometimes is I will hold the double, and I'll just and this is especially true if there's no table or counter around, and I'll just put this in my pocket, hand it off somewhere, just whatever, and I will have the spectator. I'll say, hold your hand out like this, and as they do, obviously maybe not with social distancing these days, but in the past what I've done is I will bring their hand a little closer, and instead of handing it off and doing the move, I will do the move in their hand. So as if this table is the spectator's hand, I will do the move, and as I do it, I will either say their name, or if I don't know their name, I will ask them their name, which this is a perfect time for that, and make eye contact. So as you make eye contact with them, you do the move into their hand, and then you can have them put their other hand over it or whatever. You retreat, you bring your hand back. And then at this point, you can just put it right back on top of the deck, because if you do it like that, you don't even have to hand the deck off. You can just put it in their hand, and then you're clear, you're good to go. And if you don't want to make eye contact with them, which I do recommend, because that is a great way to throw people off, and just in case, you're not feeling real comfortable about the slot, or your hands are super sweaty or something like that. But if you don't want to call them by their name, I've still gotten away with just straight up, just holding it, putting it in their hand, and then completely fooling them. So that's just a couple of tips, a couple of subtleties that I think that everybody should get in the habit of doing, little things like that, kind of behind the scenes, that nobody will notice but you. And that's, to me, what really sets people apart from mediocre magicians. So peace out, and stay safe out there, y'all.